West African heritage, and the Spaniards, which the West Africans are herdsmen, and they're still herdsmen today. During the slave era, they were brought here for their herdsmanship. The herdsmen worked their cattle with dogs, sticks, and rocks, and whistling and sounds. And that culmination of those two people put together made the expert horseman. And every third cowboy back in that era was of either Spanish, Indian, or some African descent.
That's why they call cowboys. Back in those days, a white man would call you a boy, even if you were 100 years older than him. That's what he would call you a boy. So that's why this cowboy come in there. And most of the black cowboys, they'd be out on the range. We would do all the work. Whatever was supposed to be done out on the range, well, the black cowboy would do it.
But Hollywood would have you believe that there weren't anything but Anglo-Saxon cowboys. It's the rich heritage and history that has been not fairly documented.
Going into Chicago, I saw a sign that said, "Black Cowboy, the forgotten man of the West." And after doing research, I always thought when I was growing up, I didn't know anybody but the Long Ranger and Roy Rogers. And kids now are beginning to know the history, but we go to some shows back in the days, they let all the school kids out, and the little black kids would come up to you and feel you and take off running because they had never experienced black cowboys.
From the guys that I've talked to that have told me about the rodeo back in the day when there was the Rodeo Cowboy Association, RCA, which is now known as the PRCA, and it was predominantly white, and you had to be invited in through two of the cowboys that were already there, which had most of the time was two of the white cowboys who invited you in. That brought about some of the associations that were created by blacks, cowboys that worked on ranches, that were on actual working ranches, who created rodeos for themselves. Floyd Frank is on record. I think him and his brother were the first black guys to put on a black rodeo, and that was in the Anahuac area between Beaumont and Houston.
I always wanted a rodeo arena of my own, and I worked, and then after I got the rodeo arena, I said, well, I need the rodeo stock. I bought the rodeo stock, and I take it in and take them out to different places and rent them out. Sure, they'd have a show. So that was my way of life.
It's been 4 generations in this family of Franks, 4 generations of cowboys, rodeo promoters, horse trainers, calf ropers, any of the parts that you would play in a rodeo.
Black cowboys would come from a long ways. When I was coming up, we had one rodeo a year. That was on Easter Sunday. And the rest of the time, we was out on the ranch working cattle and stuff.
So the issue of segregation in rodeos was true. So that made us have backyard rodeos, midnight rodeos, so to speak. And when we had midnight rodeos, I was taught to excel in whatever I tried to do. And I was taught that way by segregation. Whereas segregation said to us in our school, our instructor said back then, you'd have to be twice as good as the white man to make it in this world, which doesn't ordinarily hold true. But it was a concept they would give us, making us the incentive to motivate our thinking personally.
Only thing I wanted to do was be the best. It wasn't trying to beat somebody just because I was black and they were white. It was riding with the best, because at the black rodeos, the guys that rodeos there were just as tough as the guys that